Hi. How are we doing? It's great to see people in person. These video screens have words, not faces. It's beautiful. Good afternoon, everyone. It's great to see all of you. It's awesome to come together as a community today. We welcome you to Burton Manor for today's event featuring the first State of the City address by Livonia Mayor Maureen Brosnan. I'm Dan West, Livonia Chamber President. Thank you for joining us. In our current environment, we did quite a bit of juggling to make this event possible, trying to honor all the appropriate social distancing rules and government guidelines. We have about 80 people in this room. We're allowed to have up to 100 in here. All the department heads are in another room over watching on TV, and I told them they could not talk while in the other room. And then additionally, we have a live streaming audience. I imagine a couple hundred people are watching on the video stream today. So however you are engaged, thank you for making the time. I'm glad you're a part of us today. We are grateful for our community partners who graciously supported this event today. Much thanks to our presenting sponsors, St. Mary Mercy Livonia, Schoolcraft College, Bill Brown Ford, Alpha USA, NYX LLC, and Masco Corporation. Please thank our presenting sponsors. And afterwards, this program will have a socially distanced happy hour after the mayor's presentation, 2 rooms over on the other side of where the department heads are hanging out, separate room, and we will buy the first drink. So, if you want to hang out and enjoy the company you've been able to reconnect with today, please join us. But we are thankful for our registration and mixer sponsors for supporting that part of the program. And it is Jimmy John's Restaurants, Embassy Title Agency, Ashley Capital, and the law firm of Fosso & Vaughn. Thanks to those folks for supporting this. And I'd be remiss to Sam Mass and the crew here at Burton Manor. We were hoping to do this last fall. The orders prevented us from doing it. They stuck with us, and they did everything to make this accommodating. Sam, thank you to you and your team for making this event possible. Earlier this month, the mayor visited the season-opening high school varsity softball game between Churchill and Stevenson. She spent some time talking to both teams. And as a father of one of those athletes, I know they appreciated meeting her and spending time and getting a chance to know the first female chief executive of our city. Then she was asked to come out and throw the ceremonial first pitch. Now let me begin by starting that I think the mayor hit a home run by wearing the Jackie Robinson jersey that day. That was a great touch, and she brought that out it was a beautiful morning for this event. But then came the pitch. I believe the mayor would admit it was not her finest moment. Let's just say the pitch ended up a little closer to first base than home plate. But with that moment behind us, I'm sure her pitch today will be much better to all of you. So, at this time, I would ask that everyone please stand and be attentive to our American flag for the Pledge of Allegiance. Would all active military and uniformed personnel and veterans render a salute while the rest of us place our hand over our hearts as we follow the lead of the kindergarten students from Mrs. Emick's class at Rosedale Elementary School who come to us in this video.
Ready.
United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
So, very good. All right, please stay standing. Many of us have leaned on our faith community during the challenges of the past year. A revered part of the Livonia community for more than a century has been the Felician Sisters, who were responsible for bringing us great institutions such as Madonna University, the former Ladywood High School, St. Mary Mercy Livonia, and Angela Hospice. We still had a number of these great ladies serving various ministries in our community until we lost more than a dozen of these sisters during last year's COVID outbreak. Keep these ladies and their service in your thoughts and minds as we take this moment to appreciate their great contribution to our city. And for today's invocation, we welcome various students from St. Michael's Catholic School as they recite the prayer of St. Francis as they come to us in this video.
In the name
name of the Father,
and of the Son, and the Holy Spirit. Amen.
Lord, make me an instrument of your peace.
Where there is hatred, let me sow love.
Where there is injury, pardon.
Where there is doubt, faith.
Where there is despair, hope.
Where there is darkness, light. And where there is sadness, joy.
O Master, grant that I may never seek
To be consoled as to console.
To be understood as to understand.
To be loved as to love.
for it is in giving that we receive.
It is in pardoning that we are pardoned.
And it is in dying that we are born to eternal life.
In the name of the Father,
And the Son, and of the Holy Spirit.
Amen.
How about a round of applause for all those children as you take your seats? You may be seated. Before we get into the heart of the program, let me take this moment to acknowledge the generosity demonstrated by our business community. There are so many examples of our businesses who gave to others over the past year at a time that they could not be fully operational. Our manufacturers started producing masks, face shields, and donating those items to police, fire, hospital, and nursing home workers as soon as they could last spring. A number of our restaurants who could not open for inside dining continued to prepare and donate food to first responders and hospital workers. Some of our shuttered retailers and office-based companies donated money to fund Wi-Fi connections and computer technology to help needy families that needed the help to have their children connected for inline learning. And when nonprofit groups had to cancel fundraising events last year, many of our businesses told those groups to keep the money, keep the contribution without anything in return. These are just a few examples of what our business community does to keep these amazing things going in Livonia while we endured the pandemic. Now, while we are amazed that our business community did this over the past year, we are not surprised because so many of these companies are generous for many, many years for many, many causes. We are blessed to have you in our city, and you are a big reason we celebrate such community spirit in Livonia. I know the mayor joins me in expressing our sincerest appreciation to all in the business community who do so much to support our community. A round of applause to thank you. At this time, I would like to introduce the elected officials and other special guests that are with us today. As I announce your name, please stand. Please remain standing. And audience, please refrain from applause until all have been introduced. First, Andrea Oquist, Superintendent of Livonia Public Schools. Scott Barr, the Vice President of Livonia City Council. Colleen Burton, a member of the Livonia Public Schools Board of Education. Dan Centers, Board Member of the Livonia Public Schools. Jack Ingebretson, former Livonia Mayor. Anne Marie Graham-Hudak, Supervisor at Canton Township. Mark Johnson, Chair of the Livonia Parks and Rec Commission. Jim Jolly, member of the Livonia City Council. 16th District Court Judge Sean Kavanaugh. Brandon McCullough, member of the Livonia City Council. Kathleen McIntyre, President of the Livonia City Council. Susan Nash, Livonia City Clerk. Linda Scheel, Livonia City Treasurer. Laura Toy, member of the Livonia City Council. And some out-of-town visitors joining us, Brian Turnbull, the mayor of the city of Northville, and Bill Wild, the mayor of the city of Westland. If I forgot somebody, forgive me. Nobody's yelling at me, so I guess we're good. Let's acknowledge our elected officials. We will open the presentation today with a video that updates us on the work of Livonia Vision 21. This is the result of several years of work by city, school, and community leaders who gathered community input to prepare a modern master plan designed to smartly promote development in Livonia for years to come. Let's take a look at the latest developments of the Livonia Vision 21.
Across Livonia's history, residents and community leaders have come together to dream about what was possible for our community. They looked to the future, reimagining the spaces and places where our city would grow. They worked collaboratively to plan and build for tomorrow. And so often their visions became reality, building the neighborhoods, businesses, public buildings, and parks that have been the backbone of the city of Livonia for 70 years. They did great things, and if we come together with the same tenacity and sense of shared purpose, we can too. That's why in 2018, residents and leaders from across Livonia came together to dream once more about our city's future. In particular, how they could work collaboratively to not just prepare for the next few years, but to set the city up for success for the next century. The plan they completed is now our community's mission. This is Livonia Vision 21. Livonia Vision 21 is the community-inspired, resident-driven master plan that outlines our city's priorities in the years ahead. Bringing together the voice of thousands of Livonia residents who worked with the 16-member steering committee, Livonia Vision 21 outlines 8 key priorities for the city moving forward.
Maintain and expand Livonia's vibrant neighborhoods for residents and families of all ages and backgrounds.
Connect people and places to ensure that our city's infrastructure connects people where they want to go.
Protect our city's natural landscape, promoting clean air and water and reducing greenhouse gas emissions.
Offer an inclusive, healthy, and safe environment for people to live, work, and enjoy recreation.
Prioritize diverse economic development opportunities to build a dynamic local economy.
Invest in active living and access to recreational opportunities to build Livonia into one of America's healthiest cities.
Build city infrastructure, from roadways to waterways, that is reliable and ensures the health and safety of Livonia residents.
Achieve a positive and lasting community image that contributes to a sense of place, community, and belonging.
The residents driving Livonia Vision 21 identified 3 special planning areas to which they asked the city to pay particular attention.
The goal for City Center, which is one of 3 special planning areas in the city's new master plan, Livonia Vision 21, is to develop a civic and cultural hub for Livonia. In addition to popular city services like the library and City Hall, the plan envisions a mix of other uses, including housing, shopping, and entertainment, all connected with improved walking and biking opportunities. With its accessible central location, a city center really has the potential of becoming a community-wide destination for generations to come.
Back in 2018, 2019, when the committee looked at zones to be developed, we looked at the 7-mile Middle Belt Road area really closely because they already had redeveloped Livonia Marketplace, and we were suspecting that Sears was near the end, and since that time that has happened, and we actually view that as an opportunity for us because it's a lot of space that can be redeveloped into a mixed use. Other strip centers in that area have done a really good job redeveloping already, and I just think the opportunity to redevelop that 7-mile Middle Belt area with Livonia Marketplace and the Sears property brings even more energy to that part of the city.
The goal for this area is to build a sense of place that helps facilitate further development and investment. Opportunities that will help shape and improve the East Plymouth Road corridor include mixed-use residential buildings, improved parking, better sidewalk and bike lanes, wayfinding signage to help strengthen identity, and an increased practice of taking existing buildings and repurposing them for new use.
It's called Livonia Vision 21 because the work of building for tomorrow can't wait. Realizing and building for our community's future starts now. In fact, it's already well underway. There's work to do to build Livonia into a city our children want to come home to. I hope you'll join us as we make our residents and families' vision for the future of Livonia into a reality. Welcome to Livonia Vision 21.
Hello, Livonia. The last year has been one of incredible challenge for all of us. The COVID-19 pandemic has tested communities in unprecedented ways, and I am incredibly proud of the City of Livonia's response. keeping residents and employees safe, and taking action to support our community and businesses, large and small. I am so grateful for the leaders at the city who have guided us through these challenges and still accomplished so much along the way, from our public safety leaders and our department heads down to every city employee who has taken on a new role this year. We have been well served by our city government during this difficult time. And that public service and leadership starts with our mayor, Maureen Brosnan. Across the last year, Mayor Brosnan has been a tireless servant for Livonia residents. She's kept us safe, kept us informed, and kept us on track to succeed in the days and the years to come. I am so proud of the work that we have achieved together, and so excited for you to hear more about all that we have accomplished in the last year. So without further ado, please join me in welcoming the mayor of the city of Livonia, Maureen Brosnan.
All right, I wish I could see you all. These dark lights are not helping with that, but I am so glad to be standing in front of a room full of people. I know you join me in feeling the energy that comes from all being together again, and hopefully this is just the beginning. I want to start by thanking Councilwoman Toy, who is over here somewhere. Laura, thank you for that warm introduction. And to Mrs. Emmerich's class and to the kids at St. Michael's School, that's my alma mater, so it's really cool when I get to see them doing great work like that. You know, it wasn't by happenstance that we asked people to do this all virtually. We figured who better to do things virtually than those people that were immersed in it for the past year, and we had a lot of that going on. Dan West, thank you so much for your insistence in putting this together along with the Chamber of Commerce. You know, you hung in there through so much of the pandemic, wanting this event to happen, and now that it's here, I'm so glad that you made it possible for us. Along with today's sponsors, thank you all. The folks at Burton Manor have been just fantastic. Just wonderful, Steve, all the work that you've done. And to all of you joining me in this room, and then that group of people that's in that back room, this is the room where it happens. That's the room, the people that are behind the scenes, literally behind the scenes today, our city leadership staff. To those who are watching from home, who are streaming us on live, on Facebook Live, thank you all very much for tuning in whatever way you can. Livonia City Council members, thank you for joining me, not just today, but every day in making really important, good things happen in this city. And to the leadership team of 19 department heads who I said are behind me in that room there, literally every single day they are behind me. They are making really good things happen for all of us. So I want to thank them. You know, 73 days into my first day on the job, all of a sudden things started shutting down. The state said that there was a pandemic coming, and we all started to learn what it meant to maintain social distances. We started sanitizing everything in sight, and we all began to realize we were going to have to mask up, step up, and lead in uncharted times, uncharted territory. And it would be really easy for us to measure our accomplishments in light of the pandemic. But what I want you to do is to join me today in measuring what we've done in spite of the pandemic. I don't wish for our city's success and our work to be graded on a curve. Our first year's accomplishments stand on their own as a full, complete body of amazing, amazing work. You know, a lot of people might say there's a big giant asterisk next to 2020, and I say there's no giant asterisk in Livonia. We kept our foot on the gas and we kept moving forward. So I invite you this afternoon to come along with me and see what we've accomplished since we started this journey January 1 of 2020. The words at the end of the Livonia Vision 21 video that was played just a minute ago are probably the most important words of all. This plan, Livonia Vision 21, this plan is now our mission. And in fact, implementation of that plan has already begun. Livonia Vision 21 identified 3 planning areas where we as a city believe that we're going to be able to make our greatest economic impact. And it calls for us to take that foundational first step and revise our zoning ordinance. This is going to help us to streamline our zoning classifications to encourage development, especially in those 3 areas that were identified. The new ordinance is going to help us right-size our residential districts, again, improving and streamlining the process. It's going to help make sure that we see that tremendous interest by developers harnessed so that we're able to fill that missing middle in housing that's already been identified, so that older residents are going to find a great place to live in Livonia, while some of our younger, newer residents are going to find ideal residential opportunities as well. The City Council, together with the Livonia Planning Commission, took the first step in revising the city's master plan just a couple weeks ago. They met via Zoom in this environment, and I have to honestly say, this is one of the best meetings that I have attended this year, by far. It was amazingly collaborative. They dug in deep. Everybody clearly understood that this is a big challenge. This is a big, bold move to change a city's master plan, to revise a master plan, to revise the governing document that has built a city, but is now needed in order to change it, in order to move our city forward. So, like community input was key to the development of Livonia Vision 21, the new zoning ordinance is a collaborative venture too. I look forward to the new zoning ordinance being approved by the City Council, because that is truly where we're going to see Livonia Vision 21 launched. The proposed zoning ordinance is currently posted on our city's website, and so I encourage you all to take a look at it. It is so much easier to navigate. And that's a big part of this, is that we're really looking for something that is amazingly transparent. So once you get on the website and you're awed and you're wowed, I want you to give us a call, give us a shout, and let us know what the impact of the ordinance is going to be for you, for your business, for what you see happening in this community. You know, your city's leadership team is working every day to ensure that all of our efforts, all of our decisions are visualized through that Livonia Vision 21 lens. Not just zoning decisions, but all decisions. So my top priority when I took office, and a lot of you have heard me talk about this, was to keep Livonia safe. And this was a big challenge. When I took office, we were suffering from some pretty severe public safety shortages. And let's face it, when you're looking at why you want to move into a community, why you want to relocate your family, why you want to relocate your business, one of the most important things that you look for is whether or not a community is safe. So again, Livonia Vision 21 advances as we make sure that our community stays safe. Well, unfortunately, we were really short firefighters and police officers. We were short 8 firefighters, and we were short 30 police officers. Now, this isn't amazingly unusual. Mayor Wild, Mayor Graham, and Mayor Turnbull will tell you that they are all struggling, trying to find public safety people to serve in these ranks, and this is a national problem. But unfortunately, in Livonia, we found ourselves in a slightly different position. We found ourselves training exceptional people, and they were moving off, and they were going to other communities like Northville, like Westland, like Plymouth, like Canton. And this just wasn't working for us in Livonia. So our first order of business was to successfully negotiate the 3 contracts that we have that hold up our public safety divisions. And I want to take a moment and just thank especially Chief Cade for his work, along with Chief Hevner, Denise Mayer, Mike Slater, and the entire union leadership. Everybody came together around the idea, around the understanding that the safety of our community was critical to not only the people who live here now and work here now, but the people who want to live here and want to work here in the future. So we crafted some of the most competitive collective bargaining agreements in the state of Michigan. In less than a year, we were able to successfully negotiate 3 collective bargaining agreements, taking on not just the issue of pay and benefits, but taking on the issue of scheduling. The benefits package returns us to a defined benefit compensation package, and it includes 12-hour shifts. We believe that that is the 1-2 punch in attracting more police officers to Livonia and making sure that we're able to keep the ones we have, keeping firefighters and attracting firefighters. So all of this was being done in the midst of a pandemic, at a time when police officers and firefighters were already working at their peak. And here we are trying to host Zoom negotiations. Anybody who's been in a negotiation knows it is that I'm going to look you in the eye contact that's a lot of times necessary in order to make a deal happen. And we didn't have that opportunity, but we persevered and we pursued. And as a result, the work that we did is really, really paying off. Starting in January, we were at full staffing with our fire department, and that deserves a round of applause. Now, the work that we're trying to do with the police department is a little bit more of an uphill climb. We've had 6 new police officers come on board since January, and every once in a while, a couple weeks in, Susie Nash will knock on my door and she'll say, I've got another police officer to swear in, and those are good days in City Hall. Those are days worthy of celebration. So this is working. At the same time that we were working on settling 3 collective bargaining agreements, we took on the enormous challenge of reorganizing some of our city departments. And we did this because we wanted to improve city services. We wanted to better align our resources and our talent and our technology in City Hall. We thought that there was a better way to meet the changing and growing communication needs that the community was presenting us with, and that, quite frankly, COVID was presenting us with. We wanted to find a way to serve our residents better, and the City Council will appreciate this. We wanted to find a way to save money. So, for the first time in the city's history, we now have a communications department as a result of that reorganization, and that is one of the biggest changes. Additionally, though, we do have our senior services and Greenmead that are now part of our Parks and Recreation program. That's going to make that a lot easier for our residents to access and offer them a much wider variety of programs. Transportation services have been moved into housing, where we found when we did an analysis that we had 3 different transportation systems running in the city in 2 different places. Now it's all merged into one area. Food commodities, same thing. We had a couple of these programs in different areas throughout the city. Now they're all being operated in one place. So our communications department is one of our shining stars that came out of the reorganization. And it's a big part, quite honestly, of how we've managed to stay on top of the messaging around the COVID pandemic. Communications has changed a lot since the city was formed back in 1950. There are so many residents now that we need to meet where they're at on a whole host of different social media platforms, so that Livonia is not just one of the state's best kept secrets, so that the good work that we're doing isn't just known among this small group of people, but rather is talked about on a much larger scale. So the first 2 initiatives that the department spearheaded that were really most visible right away in terms of things that the community responded to was that they revised the annual report. Now, the annual report, for those of you who have seen this on council, because you get this every year, is a document about 72 pages, and it will put you to sleep on any given night. It is the best sleep treatment. So now we took all of that information, we put it in a much more easier to read format, we made the information much more transparent, we have benchmarks and ways to measure our progress in place, and we are beginning to tell the story of the amazing work that we do here every single year in Livonia. So if you haven't had a chance to check that out, it's available online, and it really is an amazing story of an immense amount of work that takes place here in the city. The second thing that the communications department engaged in was an effort to boost our response in the census, collecting census data. And as a result of their efforts, we finished second in the nation in our response rate for cities 50,000 and above. So I want you to clap for that, because that means money. It was funny, I was at the U.S. Conference of Mayors when I first took office, and my badge said Livonia, and a lot of people say right away, that is the first thing they say is, what do you do? How do you get that response rate? How do you get those census numbers up? It's a secret, we're not telling anybody. So I'm anxious to share with you the census data once it does come out. I'm actually anxious to sit down with this group of people and look at what does that data mean to us. What does it mean in terms of a changing Livonia, and how do we work together then to move the community forward? So my favorite role as mayor is as chief storyteller. And I would rather have that title than mayor any day, because I do think that that is the job that I get to do, and I do so love and embrace. And one of my favorite stories to tell is the story about our diversity journey in Livonia. And it doesn't have an ending yet, but it has a super strong beginning. This year, we expanded our diversity education and inclusion training and offered it to our entire leadership staff as well as our senior management staff. And this is the beginning, just the beginning. Those sessions were led by the Michigan Roundtable, and our opportunity to offer this program was funded by MASCO. MASCO has been an enormously generous partner in this effort. We share a goal. We share a goal to make sure that diversity is not just something we're talking about, but it's a set of values that we're truly living in our community. So I want to thank the folks at MASCO, as well as Steve Spreitzers, who I think I saw way back in that corner of the room. Steve is a Livonia native, and he has helped us to connect many people throughout the community, throughout the region, around this issue of diversity, equity, and inclusion. So thank you, Steve, for the wonderful and amazing work that you're doing. Last summer, re-energized a national conversation about race and about racism started in our country. And for many, this conversation has been happening for a very long time. Organizations like MASCO, like St. Mary Mercy Hospital, like the Western Wayne NAACP, Livonia Public Schools, Clarenceville Public Schools, Schoolcraft College, Conference of Western Wayne, Livonia Chamber of Commerce, the Felician Sisters, they are all engaged partners with us in this dialogue. And this is a dialogue that has been going on for a while in our community. And like all of them, I believe that diversity, equity, and inclusion are not just values, but they are priorities. So when hundreds of our residents gathered outside of City Hall to join in that nationwide call for racial justice, we knew as a city that we had more work to do in order to show that what actions we were taking, in order to make sure that other people were engaged in the conversations that we were already having in our community, in order to make sure that we continued to build on an identity as an arms wide open community. So that was the time. The time was right for us to rededicate the Livonia Human Relations Commission to do all of those things that I just noted. So since then, the commission has met every single month to do that work. They are a collection of dedicated leaders from throughout the city, from across the community, and I want to especially thank Rich Glover, who's the chairman of the Human Relations Commission. You know, Rich was one of the first people that came into my office after I became mayor and asked if he could be reinstated to the commission that he was serving on. And not only was he reinstated as a chairman because of the tireless work that he had done in the past and that he had committed to continue to do in the future. So thank you, Rich. One important priority for the Human Relations Commission was to help in advancing the police and communities together activity that we have going on in our city. This isn't just a page on a website. It starts that way, but it really is our police department's efforts to try to make sure that we build trust in the police department. The website, though, is an amazingly transparent, data-rich dashboard that was launched back in 2020, and it has since been updated, and it is even more streamlined and it's even easier now to navigate. So the data points and the policies listed on the website are a product of many conversations with the police department, with my office, with the Human Relations Commission. We're making important progress in the police department, showing exactly what it is that we're doing, making sure that the community understands what that work is and that we're building trust around that work. Another advancement that was implemented by the police department this year, and it is one that I am amazingly proud of, I know the department is amazingly proud of, is the introduction of a crisis support team. The Livonia City Council joined with Chief Cade and myself in advancing a program that is a model in this region. It is a model for embedding social workers in a police department to help us manage the increased number of, quite honestly, home-based, family-based issues that we're dealing with. The goal of the program is to move mental health and family issues from our police officers into the hands of a specially trained group of people, of social workers. And this is a big project. It's big. It's a bold initiative. It is a first step. Is there more work to be done? Absolutely. Are we ready to do it? Yep, we're ready to do it. So we stand as a department, as a city, committed to learning, to listening, and to taking the action that's necessary to once again make sure that people understand that Livonia is truly an arms wide open community. Another place that we're taking action on diversity and inclusion is in our boards and commissions. Since taking office, I've had an opportunity and the honor and privilege of appointing dozens and reappointing dozens of people to a number of our boards and commissions that serve our community. We've worked hard at making sure that our boards and commissions are more diverse in terms of age, in terms of gender, race, ethnicity, sexual orientation. We've been very intentional about expanding our reach so that we're letting people know that there is an opportunity here to step up, to be a part of your community. After the first year of this very intentional work, we're finally approaching gender parity. And we are quickly on our way to assembling boards that reflect some of the younger people's voices in our community. And so at this time, I would ask all of you to keep this address handy, www.getinvolvedlivonia.com, lock it in that database up there, and encourage people to raise their hands, to get involved. Much of what you'll hear me talk about today comes as a result of a lot of community input, so we need people to be raising their hands. www.getinvolvedlivonia.com. That's where it all starts. It's important to note that all of these priorities that I've talked about are in direct alignment with Livonia Vision 21. Livonia Vision 21 calls on us to not just build on our strengths, but to develop new ones. It calls on us to maintain strong public safety and focus on inclusivity. It calls on us to build on our ability to connect with residents and communicate our successes. So when I say that we're going to make sure that we take Livonia Vision 21 off the shelf, I don't just mean we're going to work on it a little bit, that it's a sidebar project. No, it is what we are invested in 24/7 in the city of Livonia. We are going to talk about this plan. We are going to take it off the shelf. We are going to dance it around. We are going to celebrate our victories along the way. It is an important, very progressive plan that is going to keep moving this community forward. Okay, so I got to switch gears here. I need you to think back to many of you the last time that you were in this room. It was right there. You probably all know where you sat. You know what door you walked in. You know who was at your table. Shortly after that, everything began to shut down. At that time, we didn't even know what an elbow bump was. We knew very little about COVID-19, and yet within days of that event, we were learning what it meant to wear masks, to socially distance. We were learning a lot about coronavirus. None of us on that day would have predicted everything that transpired afterward. The city of Livonia has been especially hard hit by COVID-19. 268 Livonia residents died as a result of the virus. Nearly 8% of Livonia's residents have been tested positive at some point in time during the virus. So I'm going to ask you to join me in a moment of silence in honor of those that we lost during this time. So during one of the darkest moments of the pandemic, there was a local voice that rang out. It rang out from the halls of St. Mary Mercy Hospital during one of the nursing staff breaks. Nurse Lori Marie Key was featured throughout the country, throughout the nation, as a voice of the pandemic. She is just one of countless frontline heroes to whom we know so much. We're going to play that clip for you, just to take you back to that time.
Sing grace, how sweet the sound that saved a wretch like me. I once was lost, but now I'm found. Was blind, but now I see.
Yes. Woo-hoo! That was good. It was powerful. It moved us all. There were many frontline workers who displayed amazing grace during this pandemic, and we are eternally grateful to all of them. At the City of Livonia, we had our own service heroes who worked tirelessly through the pandemic for our Livonia residents. Let's take a look back at some of the great work that the City of Livonia provided during COVID-19, and especially at an amazing program called Together Livonia Cares.
You know, from the first days of COVID-19, we knew the City of Livonia would face a unique challenge. And of course, the pandemic presented every local government with incredible, unprecedented obstacles. But here we were, Livonia, having one of the first 2 cases of COVID-19 in Michigan. From that mid-March day forward, we knew that this pandemic would affect us personally and locally in the city.
Livonia's prepared for this for a long time, and we've trained all departments, all the personnel on this, so everybody really knew what to do. And the idea behind this would be to manage a large-scale incident like this. And this being the biggest you could possibly get, we're looking at a worldwide pandemic. So we were prepared. We were able to put things in place very fast, to work together as a team, to help the city, other businesses, residents, whatever it might be, to get through this, and we work with our other partners throughout the state.
So as we continued to track what was going on in these nursing homes, we started reaching out personally to these facilities to find out exactly what they were dealing with, and to try to get our hands around what they really had, what they thought they had, and kind of start to identify needs. And we noticed very quickly that across the board, almost all of our nursing facilities were faced with some kind of problem.
We're falling behind with a lot of the PPE, with really trying to get our arms and our head wrapped around with what was going on. Through the Parks and Recreation Department, through planning, through Mark Tormina, the Fire Department, Together Livonia Cares came together to help to get PPE out to these individual long-term care facilities, businesses, medical facilities, individuals that might have needed it or didn't have access to it. So we started developing this logistical framework that was pretty much headed off and run by the Parks and Rec Department. They ended up being our logistical branch of this management structure that we had.
You know, we were going through uncharted territory. I don't think anyone knew what to expect and what was going to happen next, and it was a constant change environment around us. And Mayor reached out and asked if, you know, we would be willing, Parks and Recreation would be willing to be the donation center and work logistics for the donations. And of course I said yes. I mean, it was a way for us to be involved, and it was something that was needed in the community.
We set out immediately, as quickly as we could, to identify these places, communicate with them, and then get them the PPE that they needed in order to address the safety concerns that they were dealing with. And for the PPE, we turned largely to our corporate partners here in the community to help supply us with ample, face masks, face shields, and other equipment.
In addition to providing the COVID testing, our office created personal protection kits for all of our senior residents. Early on, with the Community Development Block Grant, we purchased personal protection supplies that included masks, hand sanitizer, and we created these little kits with information on how to keep yourself safe and how to wear your mask, how to care for your mask, how to clean your mask. And when we went door to door and did the testing, we provided these kits to truly educate our residents on how to keep themselves safe and to keep their neighbors safe as well. At that time, many of them did not have access to these materials, so they were very appreciative of this. And throughout the process, we continue to provide our seniors with these PPE kits, either just on a random basis to pass them out, or if they come to us and request it, we have them readily available. Working with the fire department, vaccinating the seniors through the various independent senior living facilities throughout Livonia enabled us to come up with a plan to be able to start the vaccine clinic at the Livonia Senior Center. With our housing department being very familiar with working with our area seniors, we were able to provide the fire department and the emergency response team with some guidance on working with our seniors.
So our initial goal with this whole Vaccinate Livonia process was to target those residents in those facilities. And that quickly grew into then spiraling up to doing residents that were over 65. And we went from the initial goal of trying to vaccinate around 1,200 people to administering about 10,000 vaccines.
The hard work for what Michelle's doing and all the people that are volunteering and answering the phone calls and taking the registrations, that's ongoing, and that's still, I mean, the ease of that for the residents that are making use of that is evident. And obviously Dave Hebner and the fire department staff and Brian Kahn and Brandy Isaacson have been instrumental in that program as well, their vaccination clinic. And I think that's a great team. And again, it shows to the work that city employees are willing to put in and how we can creatively solve problems.
And among all of that, one group that I want to particularly thank and highlight for all of you is Livonia's City Community Emergency Response Team. This is our CERT team. These are residents who have committed time to training in the event of a disaster. They are prepared to help us and make sure that we come out of that disaster safer. They've sacrificed a great deal to serve our community during this time and during the years previous to this. But during the Vaccinate Livonia program, they were truly invaluable.
These people come volunteered their time, and these are people that have day-to-day jobs and work. They volunteer their time. They're highly trained, highly specialized people for emergency and disaster response. They've come in and they have helped facilitate and get people through the vaccination clinic to make it run as smoothly as it possibly has.
This pandemic has been incredibly hard on our country, our state, and our city. But I hope that you can see from the work that we've done that Livonia residents and community members have so much to be proud of when it comes to our city's response. Our foremost job as a local government is to keep our residents safe and healthy. We have done this life-saving work across this pandemic, and as we emerge out of it, I know that we will only grow stronger in our tireless effort to keep Livonia safe.
You can clap. That is clap-worthy. That is fantastic work. That is fantastic teamwork. That is something that I have talked about since taking office. The need for people to break out of their silos in order to come together, and that is really where we would see the greatest benefit.
And this is a classic example of adversity driving you to a point where you really do things beyond your imagination. So that is exactly what we did. Livonia government has been agile, it has been adaptive, it has been proactive, and it has always been those things in this city. But perhaps never has that been truer than in this particular year. At different times during the pandemic, there were different things that we had to do. Early in the pandemic, when the most stringent guidelines were activated and put into place by the state of Michigan, we had to make some tough decisions about furloughing our employees, our city workers. We were seeing a reduction in service. At the same time, we were seeing significant federal investment in benefits for furloughed workers, and those two things came together and helped to drive that decision. Now, make no mistake, that was not an easy decision to make, but it was in the best interest of the city and just trying to keep everybody's health and safety in mind. So now that all of those furloughed employees are back to work, things are changing again. And we are going to see some lasting changes, I think, in the way that we have to do business as a result of COVID-19. For almost everyone, the COVID pandemic has meant a greater reliance on technology and often transitions to work from home. So our City Hall employees are not unlike any others. We equip them all to work remotely, and our remote work has increased twofold in the city of Livonia. We've doubled more the people that are working at home as a result of the pandemic. We're continuing to see our boards and our commissions and our council. They're all meeting virtually, and it's not easy to do, but they're managing it, and they're still getting an awful lot of work done. All of our city buildings have been retrofitted, like many of your offices have, in order to protect people, keep people safe. There's new signage, there's temperature checking, there's hand sanitizing equipment, marks on the floor, there are masks all over the place, and there's a new group of frontline workers. They're called custodians. And they have done an amazing job keeping us all very safe. In the city of Livonia, our custodians have kept us safe in 45 different buildings that are occupied by city employees. That's a lot of cleaning. That's a lot of work. So I want you to give them a big round of support and applause. So at different times through the pandemic, we've seen our buildings change, hours of operation. We've seen who can come and go into the buildings change. Things changed at our libraries, at the Kirksey Recreation Center. A lot of things change, and it gets frustrating for people. So we've worked really hard to try to make sure that we keep people up to speed on what those changes are. However, one of the pluses of the pandemic is that it challenged us to think about offering many of the services that we offer people in the city in a little different way. The library's curbside pickup program, for example, is a really good example of that. And this is a really popular thing with patrons now, something that probably long after the pandemic is gone is going to stick. We've seen things like the ice rink at Greenmead during this past winter. I bet that sticks. That's just a good, fun thing to do. Parks and recreation classes moved outdoors. Things that were formerly done inside got moved outside. We introduced a citywide holiday lights competition, which was amazingly fun, by the way. I got to ride all around town in a fire truck with Santa Claus. Tell me that is not every girl's dream. We had the DIA Inside Out program. We had Santa visiting with people on the front steps at Greenmead at the Blue House. I mean, isn't that just the perfect place for Santa to be? So these types of things, I would imagine that they're going to continue. And that as a result of this, we are going to continue to find even more ways to service Livonia families in creative ways. All of these new ideas came to us as a result of adversity. They made sure that we collaborated, and as a result, I think we're coming away from this pandemic in some ways with a stronger city product than we have ever had before. Communicating in a crisis is a test in and of itself, and throughout the pandemic, we relied on our communications team to provide timely messages to keep not only our community safe, but our employees safe. 635 people, day in and day out, working to serve this community, needed to be kept safe. And we managed to do that with a lot of the communication work coming out of that department.
We established new programs in the city, small business grant programs that help to keep businesses afloat through the pandemic. We had to be agile. The council passed new outdoor dining ordinance to allow bars and restaurants to operate differently under the COVID-19 guidelines and restrictions, making sure that businesses were able to stay open and stay afloat. So many of the things that were possible throughout the COVID-19 pandemic came about because, number one, we were strategic in the way that we operated, but number two, we had CARES Act funding dollars that helped us move through this as well. And I know communities all over the country, local governments benefited from that. The CARES Act funding in Livonia went directly back into the community to support small businesses, to support that Together Livonia Cares program that you just saw, and to support the testing for COVID-19. If you remember in the pandemic, that was a big deal, making sure that we had testing available for people. So the City of Livonia's throughout the story, throughout much of the year, is about our employees and our leaders coming together across departments to get really big things done for our residents. And few things have been bigger than the 2020 election. We had a historic turnout, historic voting by absentee ballot, all within the context of a pandemic. So I want to applaud Susie Nash and the work that she did in making sure that this city administered a safe and secure election. She did this by not only doing a phenomenal job in her administrative role, but by being a vocal advocate for the democratic election process. It was her tireless work that made it possible for us to get through this election, to make sure that all the votes were counted, and that there was a great deal of trust that was built in the election process in our community. So, Susie Nash, my hat is off to you. And we would be remiss if we didn't thank her whole team, because I know that's what she's thinking right now. It is not just me, Maureen. It is my whole team. It is team. And it is team that makes this kind of thing happen. It's not just Susie's team either. It is the entire team at City Hall. We had an all-hands-on-deck approach to this historic election. Everybody, all departments jumped in to help to make sure that those absentee ballots went out on time and accurately. So for me anyway, I looked at everything that happened during the course of the pandemic, and I said, if there was ever a proof point that we worked better when we collaborated, when we came together, this election pointed that out to us. But obviously, the clearest example of all for how we delivered something directly to our residents, something that quite honestly saved lives. And I don't know when city leaders, mayors, get a chance to stand back and understand that the work that they did, that the work that this council did, that the work that department heads did and people on staff and firefighters did, it saved lives. And that is monumental. And once again, that happened because we were able to pull together. We pulled together all of our resources, our time, our talent, our energies. And we delivered a shot-a-minute clinic. It was super exciting, together with the community emergency response team, our firefighters, our emergency management department, all coming together to put together a program that helped to vaccinate Livonia's most vulnerable residents. And again, an all-hands-on-deck method of operating, and in the end, we distributed 14,000 vaccines. That is amazing for a municipality. So all of you deserve a big, big hand, all of the city folks that helped to do this. But I would be remiss if I did not call a few people out here. So I do want to thank especially Brian Kahn as the director of our emergency management program. Brian has been the person who has overseen this entire operation. He is the ultimate plate spinner. It never fails that, we would get one piece of bad news and it would be coupled by another, and nothing ever daunted Brian in getting this job done and making sure we kept our employees and our community safe. And then it's kind of like the 1-2 punch with Brian Kahn and Chief Dave Hevner, because Chief Hevner has stayed on top of all of the protocols. He has stayed on top of all of the medical advice and all of the newest data on what's going on out there, and he has been invaluable to this team. And then you add Brandy Isaacson over in the housing department, who knows seniors to their core, how best to communicate with them, how best to reach them, how best to protect them. And then you look and you say, wow, aren't we lucky? But we've got Ted Davis too. And Ted Davis from our Parks and Recreation Department says, hey, by the way, did you know that you could use a Parks and Rec sign-up system to register people for vaccines? And wow, doesn't that make scheduling 14,000 appointments a whole heck of a lot easier? And then we asked people to wear different hats not like any hats they've ever worn before. We asked Mark Tiramina, head of planning and economic development, to please lead our first version of Together Livonia Cares, because who knows better the long-term care facilities than your head of economic development? And sure enough, he steps right up and does exactly what we need to do to find out what it is that they need the most. And then we need somebody to make sure that all of this information is transmitted on time and that the right hand knows what the left hand's doing. And so thank goodness we've got Josh Sabo over in the communications department. And then there's one person that keeps everything going, and that's Dave Varga. So to all of those geniuses, to all of those phenomenally talented people, I want to thank you. They deserve your applause. And I want to take a moment to thank our Wayne County Commissioner, Terry Marecki. You know, Terry comes from Livonia, serves Livonia amazingly well, and she was really ultra instrumental in making sure that we got the vaccines. She worked right alongside of us and was the big communicator between what we were trying to do and what the folks at Wayne County were trying to do. And she worked right alongside of Warren Evans to make sure that we got what we needed here in Livonia. So when you get a chance and when you see her out and about, please make sure to extend your thanks to her. She was critical in this effort. She deserves your applause. And I want to celebrate the work that the Livonia City Council has done. Every single one of them has stepped up and either lent a hand in the clinic or brought lunch or, spent time talking to people about the need to get vaccinated. And they are our best ambassadors for vaccination. They're in the process right now of putting a video together, as a matter of fact, that's going to encourage people to get vaccinated throughout the city. So they have been real champions. Also want to take a second to recognize the work that Rob Donovic, Councilman Donovic, has been doing. He hasn't been here in Livonia serving us, but he has been overseas serving us with the U.S. Army. So to all of our city council members here and abroad, thank you, thank you, thank you. So throughout the pandemic, the entire Livonia community has risen to the occasion of supporting our residents in need. And I'd like to highlight a few of those for you here as well. Alpha USA stepped up in a huge way to support our city through PPE donations. Mary Grove Awning and Livonia Chrysler Jeep partnered with the American Red Cross, and they hosted a blood drive at a critical time. Nova Star Solutions manufactured game-changing ventilator parts that allowed one machine to support 2 patients at the same time. And then DO Apparel, they transitioned their entire industrial sewing process to make masks that were distributed to area hospitals as well as healthcare workers. So why don't you give them a round of applause? So as the governor outlined this morning, and we all know, vaccination is the key. We now stand at a path forward beyond COVID-19. And I'd like to share with you, as we all embrace this hopeful moment, some of the work that we hope to accomplish in the year to come. Much of where we're headed is driven by the plans that have already been championed by the community, endorsed by the council in Livonia Vision 21 and in Bike Walk Livonia. They are fueled with unprecedented transformational funding from the American Rescue Plan and the CARES Act. They'll be implemented by a leadership team that you've heard is second to none, and they are designed to deliver services for our residents that is going to make Livonia the city that our children want to come home to. So this is the critical point. The state of our city's future is ours to shape. So let's take a quick look at just a few of the ideas that we as a city are all going to work together to shape into reality. We're currently driving a proposal for a new and improved senior center. This is one of the most critical next steps in advancing Livonia Vision 21. It's a reality that might have some funding behind it as a result of the American Rescue Plan. And we are proposing to invest some of that money in the construction of a new, safer, more accessible senior center. We're launching an effort to rebrand our parks, making it easier for residents and guests to find their way through those parks. And if we've learned anything through COVID-19, we've learned that we really need to invest in this outdoor space. So we're going to continue that effort to make sure that Livonia is one of the healthiest cities in the nation. We're going to continue to fight for our fair share of infrastructure funding at the federal, state, and at the county level. And we've heard a lot of conversation lately about infrastructure funding, a major package that Washington, D.C. is talking about, and we're going to want to make sure that we are seated at the table and that we are aggressively going after those funds. In the year ahead, here are some of the things that we're going to see. We're going to see the opening of our new Department of Public Works. We have waited for this for so long, and this is such an exciting project. This is a place that is going to transform the Livonia residents' experience in working with DPW and the engineering department. It's going to make it safer to navigate that portion of the city and that property. It's going to make it easier to get in and get the barricades that residents need and to get some of the permits that they need in order to continue the work that they're doing. And then the other big thing is that we've created enough space so that we can move a lot of our city vehicles inside, protecting them, extending their life, and saving the taxpayers' money. In this coming year, we're also going to see a completed master plan for Greenmead. Another huge initiative, very much like Livonia Vision 21, one that is built on collaboration, getting everybody's best ideas together about where we ought to head with that one piece of property in our community. This plan is going to allow us to reimagine one of our most valuable assets while at the same time preserving its historic legacy. And there are going to be plenty of partnering initiatives that we're going to be taking on, and we've got one right now that we've kind of wrapped our arms around as a city. The Be Kind Livonia program was brought to us by Reverend Kelly Whitlock with the Old Rosedale Gardens Presbyterian Church. And boy, if we don't need kindness in the world today, I don't know what we need. So this is an ideal project, I think, for all of us to come together around. And I hope that you'll stand with me in the middle of signs that you see. There's one here in this room. There is also others located throughout the community. And stand in the middle of it as the I in kind. Take a picture of yourself. Post it with the hashtag #BeKindLivonia. Talk about kind things that you or your organization is doing. And then if you seem as if you want to contribute a little bit more, go over to the UPS store on 5 Mile and Newburgh Road and buy yourself a Be Kind Livonia sign. Pop it in front of your yard or in front of your business. All of the proceeds are going to support a program at the end of the year where we're making a major contribution to our teachers at both our Livonia Public Schools and Clarenceville Public Schools, because they are really some amazing frontline workers throughout this pandemic. So to be sure, Livonia's future is ours to shape. I hope you feel the excitement I do. People asked me before coming here today, are you nervous? I said, I am not nervous. I am so excited to share this story with you. I am so excited to share the amazing things that we've done and that we are going to do in this city. There is so much for our city to be proud of right now, and there is so much more that our children are going to be proud of as we continue the work that we're doing. Whether it's our progress on Livonia Vision 21, which aims to build the foundation for our community's success in the next century, or if it's our commitment to diversity, equity, and inclusion that's going to strengthen the fabric of our neighborhoods, or any of the other one of the priorities that you've heard me talk about today, there is a role for every one of you to play in driving this plan forward. So I hope you step up. I hope you raise your hand. I hope you join me in making these things happen. It is the honor of my life, it truly is, to serve as the mayor of my hometown, a town that I grew up in. I treasure absolutely every single second of it. Every day I come into the office, it feels like Christmas. I don't know what package I'm going to open, but it feels like Christmas because it's so exciting. And I know that you join me in treasuring this city, in treasuring all of its benefits, all of its advantages, everything that it offers to our children and to our community. And I so appreciate my partners in this journey, the city council, the staff that we have here, the leadership team, all the elected officials that serve our community, the hundreds of volunteers, and the business community and the Chamber of Commerce and all of you who are in the room today. But I really feel awkward not having my leadership team here on stage with me. So if they would please just take a second and come out from behind that room, I really do want to see them all. Come on. These are the people that make it happen every single day in this city. All right, line them up, guys. This is where it's at. Way to go. Thank you all. Fantastic. We want to make sure we get a picture with everybody. Come on. Hey, no cane, Mr. Slater. Good job. Nice job. Good to see you. Good to see you, by the way. All right. City Council, come on, we got to get the whole team. You're definitely a part of this. Come on up. Dan West, I'm going to want you in this picture. And the one person I have not introduced you to is my fiance, Greg Dimmitt. This is the man who has to tolerate me each and every single day. Come on up. Thank you. That was great. All right, let's make sure you're all positioned here. And do we have, oh, there we are. Come on, clerk, treasurer, I need you all, the whole team, everybody. Thank you. Do I have them? Okay, I'm really counting on a good picture here. All right, so the time to get started building on Livonia's future is now. This is it. This is where we begin. And I hope that I can count on all of you to be right there with all of us because we are engaged, we are committed, we are dedicated, and we know that we've got a lot of stuff in front of us, but I also know I've got a lot of talent behind me. So thank you all for joining me today. The state of our city is fine. Be well. God bless. All right. Are we all in? Thank you. It was good. Short people in front. Come on. Short people in front. Come on. And you got it. Come on. Come on. You're up. You're up. Right there. There we go. You're right. All right. All right, Bill Bressler.